So here we went ahead and we're going to do another function, but now we're going to see when we have a value within our function notation, what happens to our graph. So what I did was I have an x value of -3 to +3. And what we did was I went into the calculator and I have this graph. Now it's going to have the outputs here. So what I did was you take -3, you plug it into for your x value, and you see what do you get as your y value, as your output. So now what we're going to tell is what happens when we do f of x plus 3. So let's take a side note, a sidebar. When we have f of x, what this is saying is this is my input. So now what I'm saying is I'm going to have the x value, but I'm going to add 3 to my x value, and this is now my input. So if we go back up to the top, so I'm going to have, so I would have x value of -3. So my input now, because I'm going to take -3 and I'm going to add 3 to it, my new input is f of 0. Because I did -3, because that was my x value, and I added 3 to it. So now I have to find out what is my output of 0. Well, that's going to be 9. So my new point is -3, 9. So here's -1, -2, -3. Now I'm going to go all the way up to a +9. Now you'll notice we had a point here. Let me do a different color for that one. So here we had a point here. Now that point has moved over this way. We didn't go up, we didn't go down. Now let's take a look at the next one. If I have f of -2, that was my x value, plus 3, I now have f of 1. Now my x value is still -2, but I now have an input of 1. And when I input 1, I'm going to get out the number 8. To show that, to demonstrate that, let me go to my calculator here. And if I have an input now of 1, stored as. So now that I have an input of 1, -x squared plus 9, I get an output of 8. Okay, so now my new point is -2, -2, and I'm going all the way up to 8. So here is my new point. Now before my point was here, but now it's moved over 3 units. So if I continue going, this is going to be the number 5, then the number 0. So then I'm going to have the number 5. So my input, my x value is -1, and my output is 5. So right here. So once again, it went from this value right here, it went over 3 units. Now to demonstrate this, let's put it into the calculator. So I have my original graph, and then if I do a new function, I'm going to do f1 of x, but I'm going to add 3 in here. Now look what happened. So it went from here, let me take a picture of this. So as you can see here, this was a point before, and then after my transformation, it went over 1, 2, 3 units. Here, this was the next point, and it went over 1, 2, 3 units. Here's my next point here, and it went over 1, 2, 3 units. So when we have f of x plus 3, it's going to lead to a shift either left or right. So we can continue tracing these points. So like right here, this point will go over 1, 2, 3 units. So what we have here is when we have f of x plus a value within the input, it's going to shift left or right. Now, we saw that on this one we had a positive number, but it shifted to the left. It shifted negatively. So what we have here is f of x plus a will shift to the left or right opposite from the a value. So for example, f of x plus 3 we found will shift to the left, which is our negative side. If I had f of x minus 10, it will shift to the right, which is our positive. So another example, f of x minus 12 will shift to the right, which is positive. And it will shift by this number of units. So this will actually shift left 3 units. This will shift to the right 10 units. And this will shift to the right 12 units. So even though this is a negative number, the way it works within this function is it will shift it the opposite direction.